Hi, Mike Anderson here again from Ascent Law Firm. We're talking a little bit about divorce today. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, how do I calculate alimony? What am I going to do there? And the answer is that there's a bunch of different ways to do it, and there's not one clear-cut way of doing it. However, the court looks at a couple of factors for alimony. The first of these factors is the available funds from one party. So essentially, how much money was the breadwinner in your family making at the time of divorce, right? So in this case, we'd look at something, I'm just going to put a number of $10,000. It's how much the breadwinner was making. Then the next question I would have is the financial need. So the individual who is not making as much money, I end up by doing a budget for that individual and find out what they're lacking every single month. I do a budget for that individual and also for the individual that had available funds, right? If person number one had an extra $2,000 a month after taking care of their bills, and person number two, after paying all their bills, needed $1,000 a month, the court could reasonably order that person number one would pay to person number two $1,000 a month to make sure that it's being equalized, at least for a time. The length of the marriage or half the length of the marriage. Which brings us to the third prong here, which is length of marriage. As you know, if you're married for only 1 or 2 years, it's very hard to get alimony. If you're married, on the other hand, for 26 years, it must be a lot easier for you to be able to get alimony. I usually take the range of about 7 years. If you've been married more than 7 years, alimony is at least appropriate for a discussion. If you've been married less than 7 years, it may not be the part of the discussion that we're looking at here today. Furthermore, is this a first or second marriage? Is another factor that they put on. First or second marriage. Another factor that they have is were there children involved? And who will be having to care for the children? A 29-year-old mother of three young kids under the age of 3 is going to need a lot more assistance than a 49-year-old mother of 4 that are have all left the home. So each one of those things becomes a factor. And one of the other factors that people talk about is whose fault it was. In alimony, it's much more difficult for you to be able to receive alimony if you were the one stepping out on the marriage, cheating, or any of those other kinds of things here. At the end of the day, alimony begins for this idea of you need help in order to be able to get back on your feet. The final thing I will say about alimony is alimony does not have a clear-cut calculation. It can be easy to get, it can be hard to get, depending on the circumstances that you have. Furthermore, you should never think about that as being your primary source of income. More often than not, it will not be. This is a supplement to the income that you would get in a career, not replacing that income. But alimony will also terminate, in most cases, at cohabitation, or remarriage. Meaning that once you have another individual in your life, whomever that might look like, you no longer are able to receive alimony from your other party because you now have a new party that is taking care of you or a part of your life in that manner. A lot of people, when they're thinking about this, they think the only aspect is remarriage, and they forget that living with somebody, sharing expenses, doing those kinds of things, spending more overnights with them than not, all of those things are signs of cohabitation. Furthermore, if you have keys to their apartment, if there's a toothbrush at your house, all of those other things end up by being factors that are utilized in cohabitation. At the end of the day, what I advise everybody is plan your life so that you can start taking care of yourself, no matter what situation you're in. If you're able to get alimony, wonderful. That's a benefit for us to be able to put us back on our feet. But at the same time, we shouldn't have to rely on somebody any more than the minimum that we actually have to. If you have questions regarding alimony, your alimony situation, or whether you're paying alimony correctly, please give me a call. Mike Anderson at Ascent Law Firm.